Voter outreach, we'll just move on with that, which means I get to go sit down. And would like to call Donna Johnston, our Sutter County Clerk Recorder and Register of Voters, to give us a new presentation on some change in voting.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me this evening. I wanted to talk to you about a special program that Sutter County has been chosen to participate in, and that is called Senate Bill 450, or the Voters' Choice Act. So in 2016, this bill was adopted, which allows counties, it's optional for us, to go into this type of election process, which would change the way that we do elections currently. If we followed this model, we would have vote centers open instead of traditional polling places. So the polling places wouldn't be open. We would have vote centers throughout the county, but they would be open 10 days before the election and then on election day as well. In addition to that, we would have drop boxes for vote-by-mail ballots to be dropped off at. And new security regulations are being created by the Secretary of State to accommodate this new vote model if we choose to do so. There's 14 counties that have been chosen. Like I said, Sutter County is one of those. The ones you see here in red are the ones that have chosen not to do it. The ones in green have chosen definitely to go forward with it. And I'm here tonight to ask for community input to find out if our community would like to vote, to choose this vote model. So here's our ballots that are issued by percentage. As you can see that we have a lot of vote-by-mail ballots. But in June of 14, we were a little over 55%, and it jumped all the way up in November 16 to over 76%. We're 76% vote by mail right now. So you can see that trend just from people opting to choose to vote by mail has increased over the years. The turnout is rather startling when we took a look at these numbers. The turnout by voting method, the blue indicates their vote by mail, and the orange are the people that go to the polls on election day. So what happened in June of 2014, we had about a 28% return at the polls. That is a gubernatorial election, similar to the one that's coming up next. And then the orange indicates you had a dismal 8% turnout in Sutter County, but it was low throughout the entire state. In November of 2016, we had a 56% turnout from people who vote by mail, and we had a 20% turnout for people who go to the polls on election day. But bear in mind that Sutter County always is a few percentage points more than the statewide average, so we do pretty good. So under the current model, like I said, polling places would go away, but polling places are only open on election day. If we choose to go with this new vote center model, they would be open anywhere from 3 to 10 days before the election. And then right now, a voter needs to go to their assigned polling location to get their particular ballot that they can vote on. Under the vote center model, if we choose to go that direction, a voter could go to any vote center in the county and get their particular ballot. So for instance, to explain that a little bit further, say you live in Meridian, but you work in Yuba City. If you came in to vote in Yuba City, then you wouldn't get your ballot type that you would get if you lived in Meridian. Under this new vote center model, you'd get that ballot type. So again, the current model, we've got 76% of people that vote by mail and 23% that are poll voters. Under the new legislation, however, every single person would be turned into a vote by mail voter. So everyone would get a vote by mail ballot 29 days prior to the election. And how you could return those vote by mail ballots currently, you can either do it by the mail, you can come into our office, which is pretty close to where we are right now, or you can go to any polling location, but you can only do it on election day. Under the vote center model, in addition to those options, you could drop it off at a vote center, and then at any of these ballot drop-off locations with these new boxes, should we decide to go with this model, we would buy those and put those out throughout the county. So this is what we're looking at if we decide to go forward with this. We would have 2 vote centers, according to the state Secretary of State's voting model, which would be one, which would be our office, and the other would be in Live Oak, which is the next major city that we have. They would have 3 additional vote centers throughout the county, probably one down East Nicholas area, another one in Yuba City, and possibly one out in Sutter. to accommodate for 3 days up to Election Day, including Election Day. And then 4 ballot drop-off boxes throughout the county, probably in the libraries, places of high traffic. We're looking at those possible locations right now. In this, there's another change. We have conditional voter registration or same-day voter registration. That was enacted just shortly ago. We had 200 people that we had to turn away last time because for the November 16 election, because they registered after the 15-day close. So we weren't allowed to put them in to allow them to vote at the November 16 election. However, they are eligible voters for any future elections. Under the new vote center model, we'll be able to accommodate this out at the vote centers. If we decide to stay with a traditional polling place model, unfortunately, the voter would be restricted by election code to come into our office only to get a ballot, to be a same-day registered voter. What happens with that is if they come in to vote on same day, they're not registered, we would register them. They would get something similar to a provisional ballot. It's called a conditional voter ballot until we can determine whether or not they're eligible by the Secretary of State's office, if they'll let us turn them into an eligible voter. And if so, we'll go ahead and cast that ballot for them. But like I said, the difference between a vote center model and the other model means that we would have to have all the voters come into our location, into our office, whereas if we were with a vote center model, they could come to any vote center and have this accomplished. And again, that just recaps what I just said, a little more flexibility for everyone. Some of the additional outreach pieces that we would need to do, should we decide to do this as a community, would to be make sure everybody knew about it. So we have certain guidelines we have to follow, making sure that we go through and make sure that we get everyone's contact. We have to contact each voter twice, a personal contact, meaning a postcard, in addition to these other types of services you can see up here to make sure we get the word out. The other thing that we're looking at if we go with this vote model is a mobile vote center. So we may do pop-ups if we decide to go forward with this, and that would be a temporary vote center for the day, maybe at a senior citizen center or a care facility, the college or something like that. We may decide to do some pop-up vote by mail return centers and do a little more outreach that way as well. So this is where, this is something I'd like you to jot down. We want your 2 cents. We want your opinion. We would like to know whether or not you think this would be a good idea for our community going forward. This is a decision that our office makes. It's not one that's governed by the Board of Supervisors. It's one that our office will make. And so we want to get your feedback. We want to have your thoughts whether or not you think this is a good idea or not a good idea. So that's the email address that we've set up for this purpose. It won't cost us anything more to do this in the long run. Initially, it'll cost us a tiny bit more to do some voter outreach, the types of things that you saw there. We're going to, if we go forward with this, we will minimize that effort as much as possible. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Any questions from or comments from the council members?
I do. Donna, for the outreach, would you also put into consideration the bilingual, the Hispanic as well as the Punjabi due to our demographics to ensure that our outreach is reaching those folks as well?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah. To the mayor.
Yes.
So with this start in 10, would you be able to count each night, or you still have to wait for the big day?
Well, we can start processing ballots now before Election Day. The ones that you see, the very first set of results you see on election night are the ones that are pre-staged, which means they run through our first set of scanners. We cannot move them to our tally equipment until the polls close at 8. So the same process would still occur, but with a slight difference. If we go with the vote center model, the very first set of results on election night would be it. That's it for the evening, because we won't have any ballots coming in from the polling places that are live ballots that you put directly into the ballot box, because everyone will be a vote by mail voter, so it would be a slightly different change.
More questions? Seeing none. Well, thank you for the presentation, the idea, and everybody center your questions and ideas. My only real one is the identification, how you're gonna, somebody like you, example you use, from Meridian, they come into Yuba City and their identification, proof that that's where they live, or how would that would have to be some pretty good computer setups or something set up for that identification.
Yeah, we will have our election management system. We'll have a computer there at each vote center so we can look you up directly.
Right, okay. That's what I figured, but I wanted to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, let's see if I can get on track a little bit here. All the changes. Sometimes things kind of get shifted around. Okay, I'm going to go for Joe first.